Today we're going to take a quick look at deployment. Now this entire little tutorial sort of thing will be pretty much universal for both 40k and fantasy games, as deployment is both very relevant for both of these game systems. So first of all, what is deployment and why is deployment important? Warhammer, both fantasy and 40k, is often won in the deployment phase. If you have a really good setup in your first turn, quite often it'll leave your opponent in such a position that they've really got nowhere else to go. It's much better to be in position in turn 1 than repositioning for half the game, so it certainly pays to think about where you're putting your troops right before the game even begins for the most part. A clear understanding of deployment is a huge advantage for these reasons, so make sure you pay a bit of attention here because it might save your ass on a game someday. There are 3 main rules that I want you to take away from this sort of tutorial regarding deployment. There are 3 things you should think about before you place every single mini on the table. The idea behind it is that it provides you with a much better understanding of where to put it. So number 1 is role. Why is this unit in my army? Really think about it. Why is this here? Why have I got fire dragons in my Eldar army? Why have I got this tack squad here in my army? What is this unit best suited for? Do I really want to send this fire dragon squad off to go and kill a bunch of Tyranid rippers? Is that what they're meant to be doing? Really think about it and assign them a role that is going to be suited to their task. Step 2, have a goal. What do you want this unit to achieve? What is it that you want this unit to, where do you want this unit to be at the end of the game? What goals do you have in mind for this unit? Really, this sort of step requires a bit of foresight because you really need to think about where it is that you want this unit to be and what it is that you want this unit to achieve, and then deploying them appropriately to that. You don't want to put in, say for example, fantasy, an infantry unit that, chuck it up on the side because it'll take forever to get anywhere. You want it right up the guts, to be honest. Or for 40k, you don't want to be putting your big heavy squad of Space Marine Devastators, right up the front to go and charging in and take an objective right in the middle of the board. Otherwise they're just going to get chewed to pieces and not going to really do much. Number 3 is investment. What do I need to do to earn back the points I spent on this unit? So I'm talking about really big, expensive units that cost a lot. What does this unit need to achieve for you to feel like it was a worthy investment? Have an idea of what it is that you want it to achieve. Would you be okay with spending 200 points on a unit that is going to take an objective that would otherwise be very difficult to take? Or are you okay with spending 300, 400 points on a unit that is going to spend 3/4 of the game running up and down the board trying to find somewhere to get into something? Also, think, what dummy deployments do I have available? Now, I'll explain what dummy deployments are a little later on, but just keep that one in mind, it'll all kind of come together. So let's take a look at some examples of both fantasy and 40k of dud and pretty alright deployment. Okay, fantasy up first. At the bottom we've got the blue guys, at the top we've got the red. Pretty self-explanatory. Now, what is it that should strike out to most of you is that essentially the deployment is reversed. Up the top, the red player has deployed his units in such a manner and fashion that it's pretty clear what it is that he's trying to do. He's got his big infantry units up through the guts, obviously trying to bog down whatever it is that comes at him, with the cavalry units there to mop up the sides or come in for a flank charge. Now down in the bottom, you kind of look at what the blue guy's doing and you're thinking, yeah, cavalry will probably end up charging up, and they probably will get a fast engagement, but by the time that they end up getting up somewhere around here and engaging these infantry units, the blue team's own units are going to be somewhere around here and totally out of the fray. And when the cavalry end up sitting here, they're going to be held steadfast by the infantry and are just going to sit there and be massive carnage from cavalry flank charges, which nobody wants, let's be honest. So that's why it pays to think about deployment in fantasy. Okay, let's have a look at a 40k example. Alright, we've just got a standard, objective-based game. So here again we've got the blue team, and again we've got the red team. They've got similar sort of forces, but it's mainly just for shits and gigs that we're doing this so that you understand what it is that I'm trying to achieve. Now, the red team here has basically set up in such a way that this rhino full of, we'll say that both the rhinos have got attack squad in them, for example. This rhino here is obviously positioned to charge off over to claim objective C and hold that. This rhino here is obviously set up to go and charge over to objective B. And the assault squad A is obviously ready to go to the nearest objective to be supported by heavy A sitting on top of a hill and can pretty much rain death on everybody else. Now the blue team looks like it's in a little bit of struggle town, I guess you could say. The assault squad A is sitting right at the front, and obviously looks like it's being poised to go and claim objective C. However, it's all the way on the other side of the board, and with an assault squad quite often running around on feet, it's probably going to take a little while to get there, and by the time they do, they're probably going to have sustained several turns of shooting from the attack squad that would have made it there on turn 1. Same thing with the heavy unit over here, is obviously poised to go and join up with objective group B, and often with heavy units they can't really fire and shoot at fire and move at the same time, so they're going to be essentially useless for the best part of the game while they finally get up to objective number B. Now the speed unit, this is obviously a little bit retarded, is sitting directly in front of objective A, obviously looking to claim it straight away. However, as has been already illustrated, the heavy unit will obviously just take this out from afar, and the assault squad will engage it very quickly. And I think probably the biggest WTF moment in this entire thing is, what is this rhino doing at the back here? What is this? Why is there 2 infantry units in front of this? What is this trying to achieve? So this is why it pays to think about deployment in 40k and not be a pants on head retard like these guys are. Alright, let's have a look at a few different little things. Dummy deployments. Now, the idea of what a dummy deployment is it takes a little bit of prep work beforehand, but when you're making your list is to take a very cheap unit, doesn't really cost much points, doesn't really have a whole lot of purpose. If it does, sweet, you know, but it's mainly there to just postpone placing your expensive units. As deployment is a turn-based thing, if you have a really small army like either a Grey Knights army or a Space Marine army, and you're going up against somebody like Tyranids or Orcs, or conversely you're the other way around and you're playing as Orcs and you want to just drop down some units so that you can position your finer units in a better way to take out the real cheese of the opponent, dummy deployments are absolutely invaluable. They really do open up opportunities to, you know, take advantage of your opponent's deployment, and just absolutely can set your opponent up for an absolutely demoralizing beginning, to say the least. If in doubt, I guess the best thing is to do is just save the best for last. If you're putting a huge amount of points into a big unit, it's probably best to put them down as one of the last things that you deploy. If you're investing that much money, you probably that much points, you really want it to have a solid effect on the game. If you deploy it last, you've probably got the best chance of, well, you have the most scope of where it is that you want it to be, and you can put it in the best position. So to recap, the 3 things that you need to take away is, what is the role of this unit, what is the goal that I have in mind for this unit, and how much did I invest in this unit. Basically, you take this away and it will probably improve your deployment a fair amount. I guess probably if there's one thing you can take away from this, if in doubt, think it out, guys. I mean, you know, deployment doesn't have to be a super rapid thing unless you may be in a tournament situation, but you get a bit of practice in and it'll be pretty clear where it is that you need to put things. So just think about it a bit before you chuck it down. So hopefully, guys, that'll help you out when you're making your next deployment zone a battleground before the game has even begun. Take it easy, guys.